Hello everyone. In this video we are going to discuss how we can set up a private repository for Profound.js development on our IBM I. So the repository isn't in the cloud, it's going to be internal to whoever's accessing your IBM I only. Now the first thing we're going to need to do is download a tool called GitHub Desktop. Now the reason I'm telling you to download this is because it has the set of tools like SSH and SSH keygen, and it allows us to interact with our IBM I, and it's free, and all you have to do is go to desktop.github.com, scroll to the bottom of the page, and you'll see at the bottom, not ready for desktop beta. We need the non-beta version, so you're going to want to go ahead and download the version for either Windows or Mac, and I already have the Windows version installed, which is good. When you have them installed, hopefully it should create some icons on your desktop, which would be GitHub and Git Shell. We don't need the GitHub one, so we can go ahead and delete that. The first step, what we're gonna need to do is create an SSH key to connect to our IBM I. So you're gonna simply want to launch a shell, and you're gonna do SSH keygen, and it will prompt you to enter where you want to save the key. I'll leave it as default. You should also leave it as default. I want to overwrite mine because I already have one and I want to replace it. You can optionally enter a passphrase for the keys, and I'll just leave mine blank so it's truly random. But now a key has been created and I want to see the content of the key, so I can do cat space and then where the file is. Cat basically will print what the contents of the file are onto the screen, which is good. So there's my key. The next step is to put the key onto your IBM I, and to do this I'm going to use FileZilla. So FileZilla is an FTP program which allows me to access the file system on my IBM I. So I already have my system set up. That's my host name is Power8 and it's got my username and password. If I go ahead and connect, it will take me to my home directory. You should have a home directory set up as a user. And what you'll need to do is either create or open the .ssh. Now if you don't have one, it's quite simply right clicking, create directory, and then it'll be SSH. If you jump into that, I already have stuff here, but you quite simply need to create a new file and call it authorized keys with no extension. Quite simply just press OK and we'll have a new file. Now this is where we need to put our SSH key. So what I'm going to do is take mine. You can either just copy the contents. Well, that's what you have to do, and then you'll want to go ahead and view and edit the authorized keys. No matter how you do it, you just need to edit it somehow. You could use any tool to transfer this data, and quite simply paste it in and save, and then close it. My FileZilla will prompt me to say that the file has changed and I should re-upload it, so I'm going to finish editing as well and delete the local file. And now we have it transferred. So what this means is now that when I connect to my IBM I over SSH, I will not need to enter in a password. So if I do SSH Allan at Power8, I'm not prompted for a password, and this is because I have a private key on my local machine and a public key on the IBM I. So if I'm on a different machine, I should set up a different SSH key. So now we have the SSH key set up. The next step is fairly easy. We need to set up a Git repository on our IBM I. So, for example, if I'm creating a new like a production application, I want to have its own repository. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cd to the root, and I'm going to make a directory called prod app. And then what I'm going to do is cd into prod app, and now it should be empty, of course. But we need to initialize it with a Git repository. So what I'm going to do is git init --bear. This will make a blank repository in the product folder, and what this means is that it will allow people to clone the repository onto their local machine into a different folder on the IBM I IFS. You get the idea. Now the first step is to clone it onto your local machine. So what I'm going to do is exit out of here. That means it will disconnect from my Power8, and then I'm going to cd to where I have Profound.js installed on my local machine. So now I'm in that directory, and I'm going to go into the modules folder, and I want to clone prodapp onto my onto my local machine. So quite simply, it's a simple git clone Allan at Allan at power8 / and then where we made the repository, which was /prodapp, and then the folder we want to put it into, which will also be prodapp, and then it will clone. It will actually connect to the IBM I and clone. So now we can simply push and pull onto our IBM I, which is neat. So now what I'm going to do is go ahead and open up that folder. So it's going to be in my disk, it's going to be Profound.js and modules, and as you can see we have prodapp. So I'm going to make a new file, give it a readme, hello world, save it, close, and if we cd into our prodapp and then we do a git status, as you can see we have an untracked file. So if we do a git add -- all, a git commit -m with a message of initial readme, and then if we do a git push, it's simply gone ahead and pushed our files up to our IBM I. Now what's important is what we need to do next. We actually need to develop something locally and test it on our IBM I. So what I'm going to do is I already have a pre-built app, and I'm going to put it in. So I have this SQL code and prod.list JSON. Let's bring it in here. If we do a git status, we have two new files that we need to test. Now I'm going to develop locally to start with. So what I'm going to do is open up a Genie session, and I'm going to sign into my system. And the first thing I'm going to do is set up my library list. Then I'm actually going to create a new library called prodapp, which is what we... So now I've created that. And that's what we named our repository, prodapp, and where we put the modules. And then I'm also going to create a proxy for our program. So the program is called SQL Code 1. SQL Code 1 in the prodapp library. Okay, so we've created the prodapp SQL, we've created the proxy for the module, and now what we need to do is start our Profound.js server with our prodapp running. So the first thing I'm going to do is change my my Profound.js settings, my Profound.js server settings, and put prodapp onto my path list, and that that was a simple change. And then all I'm going to do is do a node start. So now the server is running, and I need to do pjs myip 8081, which means any requests to Profound.js will go straight to my local machine. So now if I call SQL SQL Code 1, first of all I need to add prodapp to my library list, and then I should be able to call SQL Code 1. The screen should load running from my local machine, as you can see here. So this is running straight from my local Profound.js server. So the next step is quite simply to push the changes, well, the program that we've just made back up to our IBM I. And to do that, we simply need to go back into the modules folder and go into our prodapp. And as you can see, the posh git client, the git shell we're in, is telling us that we have two unindexed changes, and we can obviously just do a git status to see these. And as you can see, we have prod.list and SQL Code 1, which are the two files that we made here, prod.list and SQL Code 1. Now to push these up to the server, we quite simply just do a git add, and we'll use -all, which means add all the files, and then we'll do a git status again. As you can see, it's the two files, and then we'll do a git commit -m, and we'll say SQL Code 1 program, and then we'll just do a git push. And now that means the source is now on our remote machine. But we also need it to get it running on Genie without having a local server. So, okay, now what we're going to do is SSH back into our IBM I. Oh, Power 8, not Profound.js. And we're going to CD to where we have Profound.js installed. And then we're going to CD into modules. And then we're actually going to clone the repository on the IBM I into the modules folder, which is on the IBM I. Kind of sounds confusing, but moduleception almost. But quite simply, we're going to do a git clone / prod app. Cloning into prod app, done. Let's do an ls. Prod app is here, which is cool. And if we cd into prod app, ls, we have our three files, our readme, prodlist, and SQL code 1. So now that our local server is not running, we can quite simply sign out and sign back in. This will reset where our Profound.js is calling, so instead of it being on our local machine, it will be on the IBM I. So we're going to need to go ahead and add Profound.js and Profound UI back to the library list, and then also add our prod app. And then we should be able to quite simply call SQL code 1, and we should get the same screen that we got earlier. And as you can see, it's a fairly, it's a simple screen. It doesn't do much. It just lists records in a file. The last part of the video is going to we're going to show how we can make a change on our local machine and then push it up into the repo and then have it display on and then deploy it onto the I. So the first thing we need to do obviously is make a change to our SQL code 1. So this SQL code 1 simply it just does a fetch for each record row by row. But what we should do is enhance the performance and make it fetch, say, 50 records at a time. Now I've gone ahead and already written out the code for this, and what I'm going to do is go ahead and copy and paste it into SQL code 1, like so. And I need to test it, obviously. So what if I do a git status on my product folder, I can see that I've changed the file. But first of all, let's go ahead and actually test it. So let's cd to where Profound.js and node start. If we start node, and then we go ahead to our Genie session, and if we do a pgs my IP 8081, which is what my port is on, and then if we do a call SQL code 1, we get the same screen, but with our new code. Excellent. Now let's make another change. Let's make it so the text of these fields is different. Let's change this, the names of them. So what I'll do is go ahead and open up my local node designer, localhost 8081 node designer. And what I'll do is I'll click open, and I will put in prod app here, and then we'll choose the file, prodlist.json, open, and as you can see, we should be able to change the name of the headings. Let's say product ID, product name, and product product description, like so. And then we'll just click save, and let's go back over to Genie. Let's call our local server again, and as you can see, the stuff is updated on our local server. And if we go back to our git status, if we look at the git status in the module in our prod app, and we have two files changed. So what we need to do first of all is test that our changes on the I still exist. So let's add our library stuff back, Profound.js, Profound UI, prod app, and then call SQL code 1. We have our normal stuff going on. So let's exit out of here. Now let's commit our changes. Let's do a git add -- all. Let's add all our changes. Git commit -m, improve performance, and update headers. And then we'll do a push. Very nice. That will push the changes onto our IBM I. And then what we need to do is SSH into the IBM I itself, and then CD into Profound.js, and then into the modules, and then the prod app folder, and then simply git pull. That's going to pull in our new changes. So if we do a git log, we can see that SQL program might change, improve performance, and update headers. Let's clear that. Oh, we can't clear it on this terminal. But now if we call SQL code again, we actually have our changes on the IBM I. So as you've seen, I've gone ahead, made a repo, committed some files, showing you deployed them to the I, made changes, and then redeployed. And obviously, this is a very nice way and safe way of making development easier for developers.